So today we need to go over and identify some of the facial muscles. So this is the frontalis muscle, and it will wrinkle the forehead. This is corrugator supercilii. It will move the eyebrows to the midline. These are the orbicularis oculi muscles, and when they contract, they will close the eyelids. These are the zygomaticus muscles, and when they contract, they will elevate the corners of the mouth. This is levator labii superioris. When it contracts, it will elevate the upper lip. This is orbicularis oris. When it contracts, it will close and protrude the lips. This is depressor anguli oris. When it contracts, it will lower the corners of the mouth. These are depressor labii inferioris, and when they contract, they will lower the lips. This is buccinator. When it contracts, it will compress the cheeks. We are now going to move on to the three muscles of chewing. So it takes two strong muscles to elevate the mandible, but only small muscles to lower it. The large muscles that elevate the mandible are temporalis. So temporalis will elevate the mandible. Masseter is another large muscle that will elevate the mandible, and it wraps around the mandible. You can see how it wraps around. So this is masseter. And then the small muscle that is responsible for lowering the mandible is digastric. So it's these very small muscles on the inferior aspect of the mandible. Now we're going to look at sternocleidomastoid, which is this muscle which flexes the neck. Sternocleidomastoid flexes the neck and brings the chin down towards the sternum. This is another look at sternocleidomastoid. The antagonist to sternocleidomastoid is Splenius capitis. Splenius capitis extends the head. Trapezius is a large muscle that has 3 parts. The upper part, shown in orange, will also extend the head at the neck joint. But all 3 of these sections are included in the trapezius muscle. Upper, middle, and lower. So all of these are set parts of the trapezius muscle. The deltoid muscle will flex the arm forward, extend the arm back, as well as abduct the arm away from the body. And it also has 3 parts. So this anterior part flexes the arm forward, this posterior part extends the arm back, and this medial part will abduct the arm away from the body. If we look at the muscles of the chest, pectoralis major can both adduct and flex the arm. If we look at pectoralis minor, it has 3 points of origin, and it inserts on the coracoid process of the scapula. So it will move the scapula in an anterior or forward motion. So the pectoralis minor will move the scapula forward. Serratus anterior will also move the scapula forward. Serratus anterior are these other feather-like muscles that sit directly underneath pectoralis minor. If we look at the external intercostals, they will elevate the ribs and increase thoracic volume. The internal intercostals will depress the ribs and decrease thoracic volume. The diaphragm is this dome-shaped muscle, and when you inhale, it will flatten, increasing thoracic volume. The latissimus dorsi is this very large flap of muscle, and when it contracts, it will both extend and adduct the arm. We also have a group of deep muscles called the erector spinae group that is responsible for extending the trunk. This group is made up of spinalis and longissimus. So this group together is called erector spinae. On the back of the arm, we have triceps brachii, which is responsible for extending the arm as well as extending the forearm. On the front of the arm, we have biceps brachii, which is responsible for flexing the arm at the shoulder, as well as flexing the forearm at the elbow. We have 4 abdominal muscles. We have rectus abdominis, which is responsible for flexing the trunk. We have the external obliques, which form this V shape. We have internal obliques that run up to make a point. And we have transverse abdominis, which is shown on the most interior aspect of the torso model that runs as completely parallel fibers, also responsible for flexing the trunk. For our core muscles, we have 2 muscles that make up the iliopsoas group. We have psoas major and iliacus. For our gluteus muscles, we have gluteus maximus, which will extend the leg backwards. And gluteus medius, which is an abductor. So gluteus medius will abduct, at the hip joint and move the leg away from midline. For the muscles of the leg, we have gracilis, which will adduct the leg. And then we have a group of adductors. It's actually adductor longus and adductor brevis and adductor magnus. I'll go over them again on the torso model. There's also sartorius, and sartorius can flex and medially rotate the leg at the knee. So sartorius is the longest muscle in the body. Now we're going to move on to the quadriceps femoris group, which is made up of 4 muscles. And we'll start off with rectus femoris. So rectus femoris sits on top. And the quadriceps as a group will flex at the thigh and extend at the knee. We remove rectus femoris, we can see the 3 vastus muscles. Vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and vastus lateralis. So for the quadriceps, we have vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and vastus lateralis. And then on top is rectus femoris, and those 4 make up the quadriceps femoris group. Moving to the hamstrings group, which will extend the thigh at the hip and flex the knee. We have biceps femoris, which is going to run to the lateral aspect of the knee. And then we have semitendinosus and semimembranosus, which are going to run to the medial aspect of the knee. So the hamstrings is a group of 3 muscles that extend the thigh at the hip and then flex the knee, made up of biceps femoris running to the lateral side, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus running to the medial aspect of the knee. Gastrocnemius is this large muscle in the lower leg, and it can also flex at the knee, but its major action is in plantar flexion, so pointing those toes. If we remove gastrocnemius, we can see soleus. And soleus is also involved in plantar flexion at the ankle joint, so pointing those toes. So both soleus and gastrocnemius are involved in plantar flexion. We go back to the front side. We have tibialis anterior. Tibialis anterior is involved in dorsiflexion, pulling those toes up. It runs right alongside of the tibia. So tibialis anterior is involved in dorsiflexion.